and plenty of people on this call. I am Tammy Dillard-Stills, the Executive Director of YALSA, and I want to welcome you to Returning to the New Normal Teen Services Programming. We have several attendees on this, over 700 signed up, so I don't know how many will show up. So I have muted all mics. If you have a question, please raise your hand or preferably put it in the chat box, and if I can answer, I will. If not, I will answer questions later, or maybe Todd Krueger, who is facilitating this call, can answer those calls or questions. And again, this is Returning to the New Normal Teen Services Programming, and we will begin at 1 o'clock sharp. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. Again, welcome to Returning to the New Normal Teen Services Programming. We thought we would have this brown bag event to allow you guys to talk and the opportunity to learn what other librarians are doing in this strange time that we're in. I would like to introduce our facilitator for this call, Todd Krueger, your president of YALSA. Todd, take it away.
Thanks so much, Tammy. All right, I'm going to talk for a bit, and then we will invite some of you to talk as well. You don't want to hear me for a long period of time, but thank you very much for stopping into today's event. Good morning, Pacific Coast, and good afternoon, Atlantic Coast. As Tammy said, I'm Todd Krueger, president of YALSA. While it seems unnecessary to mention that we're living in very unusual and difficult times, I also feel that it's important to acknowledge that daily, and on some days at an hourly basis, and that no two of us are going through these times in the same way. This event is more than anything an attempt to reassure you all that what each of us is doing wherever we are is really the best we can under these circumstances. So for better or worse, I presume most of you are now familiar with or quickly have become familiar with this communication format. The YALSA board, many YALSA committees, task forces, and juries have been using Zoom for a number of years, but I realize it's still new to many people. The only thing that we'll ask participants to do is raise hand, which is found under participants. Everyone else is muted, as Tammy said, unless they're called on. So when Tammy and I came up with this event a few weeks ago, we weren't really sure what would be happening by the end of the month. So although it's titled Returning to the New Normal, I feel that many of us honestly are nowhere near ready for anything like that. And to let you in on a secret, I'm quickly tiring of the phrase the new normal. Paraphrasing a Princeton University provost, I agree with how he described what we're experiencing instead as the current abnormal, right? So as we lurch forward toward a semblance of normalcy in the coming weeks and months, there will likely be many new normals, depending on the date, the location that we work in, and the advances that the scientific and medical fields are working on. I also want to take a moment to delve into where we are collectively, mentally, and emotionally today. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the work of best-selling author Brené Brown. She has discussed how during this crisis with no known end, there exists, quote, a growing weariness. We're tired, physically, emotionally, and spiritually exhausted. She's also said how we're, quote, collectively grieving the loss of normal. Author, researcher, and grief expert David Kessler, who joined Brown on an episode of her new podcast, also talked about ways to handle what we're living through. He said, there's something powerful about naming this as grief. It helps us feel what's inside of us. He discussed, quote, the loss of normalcy, the fear of economic toll, the loss of connection. This is hitting us and we're grieving collectively. We are not used to this kind of collective grief in the air, end quote. So please keep these constructs in mind for yourself, for your family, the teens that you work with, and more than ever, we all really need to learn patience. I also would like to honor all the frontline workers, including in some cases library staff, who are helping to safely provide information and entertainment to their communities. Some of you are, I'm sure, are part of that. While there are reasons people support or discourage libraries from being open physically at this time, the fact is that some workers are being asked to come into the library, provide curbside service, and these are our colleagues. I also want to honor all those of us who are working from home virtually, trying to figure out the best ways to stay connected with our communities, complete our work, present virtual programming, order electronic and physical materials, all the while trying to keep focus and temporarily shut out what is going on around us and in our own homes. I also want to honor those library staff who have been furloughed or laid off and wish them the best as their communities struggle with questions of finances. You have not been forgotten, and YALSA, along with ALA, will continue to advocate for your positions and jobs to be reinstated as soon as possible. And finally, I want to honor those lives that have been lost here and globally, and my thoughts are with those who have loved ones who are grieving, many times from afar. So today we're going to spend some time checking in with each other, hearing from some folks who have had programming success with teens in the virtual setting. And then I'll mention a few YALSA resources that I think could be helpful both now and going forward. I want to take a quick moment to mention the work that the YALSA board and I have been doing in hopes that these implementations will assist members during the pandemic. Along with other members, I have hosted a number of COVID-19 related messages to the YALSA blog, which I hope have been useful. The board provided me with support as I sent out messages to the chairs of your committees, task forces, and juries, ensuring members that our expectations of productivity and communicating have been tempered while we are all adjusting. I believe we've all experienced the shutdown differently with various levels of shock, denial, and in some way or another, eventual acceptance of how things currently are. The board also approved virtual dispensation for the YALSA award committees that would normally meet in person at the ALA annual conference in June. Because that event has been canceled, award committees will be allowed to meet virtually in closed sessions. The YALSA staff is working with publishers to ensure that YALSA award and selection committees have access to 2020 book and audiobook releases. The board is also currently in discussions about enacting a focused short-term strategic plan that directly addresses our current realities. So let's check in briefly with how some of you are doing. Raise your hand, using the participants, raise your hand, if you would like to briefly share a little bit about how you have adjusted and if you have been able to reconnect.
I think you muted yourself
You
accidentally.
muted yourself. I was going to say that too. Okay.
I'm going to actually give myself a little credit because I think it was Tammy who muted me.
Okay, I did
All
not
right.
mute you, but I'm ready.
No, that's great. Anyway, so is there anyone who would like to share how you've been adjusting and if you've been able to reconnect with your teens, how that's gone? Desiree?
So what I've been doing is before the shutdown actually happened, I got my teens to actually like me on Instagram, which is great. So I've been doing these sheltering in home reads where I do book talks and then they view my videos. So, and then I see what they're doing, which is also kind of cool.
Wonderful. How about, it looks like Jessica Levy has her hand up.
Yeah, hi. So I'm in Los Angeles. I work for LAPL, and prior to this, I was working with my teen council on a weekly basis on a project, a civic engagement project devoted to mental health. So when this happened, it kind of, the topic lent itself to everything that was going on, and my teens, the teen council has been great. Like they've been able to meet regularly, and that kind of inspired me to bring in guest speakers. So we started inviting a group, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, who had previously come to visit us in person. And they do, I connected with our local chapter, not the national chapter, and they did a virtual presentation. So we were actually able to reach more teens than just the ones at my branch, because we're part of a 72 library system. So anyway, we've invited a bunch of presenters from various crisis hotlines and had a lot of good discussions, and we're trying to put together a zine on the topic of mental health.
Oh, terrific.
Yes.
That sounds great. Mental health is something that obviously we're all going to be dealing with, both ourselves and our teens, dealing with this trauma at this time. Let's see. Oh, it looks like we have someone who was just recently elected by our members to be the next president-elect of YALSA starting in July, and that's Kelly Zarnecki. Would you like to share?
Sure. Thank you, Todd. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we've been really focusing a lot on college and career development, which might sound a little bit weird because that seems so future, you know, and not maybe right now, but I guess it's both. And I think we're really just trying to find our ways. So we've got like online appointments that teens can book, and we've had a few, you know, pop in like, hey, how can I volunteer, or what online courses I can take, and, you know, just kind of populating our website, our digital library branch with podcasts and things like that, trying to develop opportunities for teens to volunteer. So I feel like we're getting there, but it feels a little slow going. So yeah, but we're trying.
Terrific. For many kids and teens, really college and career is coming right up. It may be something different from what they were expecting, but that's a good point. We know many of our juniors and seniors particularly are really looking toward the next step, and that's a good point for us to be a source of information. I see Beth Scanlon also has her hand raised.
Hello.
Oh.
I'm in East Lansing, Michigan, and our library closed on a Friday, and on Monday of the following week, or Tuesday, I think, I ran a program that routinely runs at our library, and we have like 40 to 80 youth who come after school Monday through Friday, and that's the bulk of our teen participation during the school year. And when I ran that meeting, I advertised it on our Instagram account, and the kids who are regulars after school showed up. And then it quickly became apparent that they needed more time together. And so I asked them, you know, do you want to meet more regularly? This was a once a week program that happened in person in the library. And they were like, yes. And so we picked a time that worked for them. And we've been meeting every day for an hour, Monday through Friday, to just kind of like hold space for each other. So they get to socialize with one another. They get to, you know, say as much as they want or as little as they want, depending on how they're feeling, kind of check in. And then once a week, we also play video games using Jackbox games for an hour. So that's what we're doing currently, but we're also working on summer reading because we're doing it virtually this year. So that's the other focus right now.
Terrific. Yeah, summer reading, that's a big question for a lot of us, youth librarians for sure, whether or not that will happen, how it will happen. We obviously always want to avoid summer slide and that sort of thing, but is it really feasible to do it in the same ways, and how can we make adjustments accordingly? Really good point. All right, Patty Palmer. Patty, you had your hand raised. Are you?
I'm
Hi.
Elmhurst Public Library in the Chicago suburbs, and kind of going off of what Kelly said, we had a program scheduled for in the library for early April on planning your college visits. And so our presenter turned that into virtual college visits. So we did it via Zoom, and he talked about, you know, all the other places they could find information and view information on the colleges besides just what the colleges have produced. And this man, Tom Jaworski, he's an independent, you know, college admissions consultant. But he collects a lot of this information. He's going to do a program for us in June on what he's seeing happening with the changing college admissions landscape. So we're doing that. And I'm looking at more college and career things like that. On the fun side, one of my coworkers who's been running the gaming programs in the library, she moved our Smash Brothers tournament to Discord, and that's been working really well. And she worked with our college student dungeon master and set up D&D on Roll20. And the library's had a Minecraft server that hasn't been used much lately by the kids department. So we're trying to get that set up for the teens too.
Great. Wow, that sounds like a lot of you have done some amazing connections with teens already. It's really glad to hear that. I mean, I guess we are in week 7 of a lot of our shutdowns right now. I know that may vary from place to place, but here in Maryland, we're in week 7. So I think we've been trying to connect. We've been understanding that people are at different points in their ability to juggle all of their requirements, technological, family, all the things that people are dealing with, let alone just how to, safely go about our lives to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, etc. So it's great to hear that so much has been happening where we've been able to connect with teens. I feel that that's a great indication of just how motivated we all are. So now we're going to hear from a few folks who have had some experience virtually connecting with teens and how they were able to reach them and how things went. So even more of what we've been talking about, right? So first of all, we're going to talk to some people who have dealt with some, who've done some gaming events. And the first person that I have on my list here is Emmy Neal. Emmy, are you available?
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Awesome. So we had a really strong game program, board games, video games, and we've sort of converted that as much as we could to online. We don't have a Discord server. I was not allowed to set one up, but I'm going to work on that because it sounds like a lot of fun. We also played with Jackbox games. There's a bunch of them right now that are free, like Drawful, which is my kids' favorites. And they need a computer to watch from and a smartphone in order to play most of those games. And my favorite board game connection is called Tabletopia, which, let me see if I can copy the website into our chat here. It is an online platform for a bunch of board games. So Stonemaier Games, which has won a bunch of World Gaming Awards for families, for teens, for adults, they have a ton here on Tabletopia. And it's basically, you can set up 1 to 8 player games. It could be Scythe, it could be Santorini, Subterra is one of our favorite ones to play. And if you pay for the premium account, which we did, it's $10 a month, you can invite guests. So your patrons don't need to have an account themselves. We figured this would be a good investment until everything got back to normal. You just send them the link to the game, they type in whatever name they want to be known by, and then everybody gets to talk on a mic and coordinate the games. The best ones for us have been the cooperative games because it gives all of the teenagers a chance to help each other out as they learn how to navigate this platform. And we found that once you've played 1 round of any game you like, it becomes a lot easier to figure out how to move the pieces, and like how the structure of this platform works. It's been fantastic for us. We tested it on our young adult advisory board, which had 5 kids. They played Subterra, which is like a cave diving horror survival game, and they loved it. So we're really, even after this quarantine ends, I don't know that we're going to go back. I think we will always have some of this going on in our library.
Well, that's great. Someone in chat mentioned for people to please let us all know where you're from. Emmy, you're from the Lake Forest Library in Illinois.
That's correct.
And I also noticed that a lot of people in chat have been talking about things like Jackbox, Kahoot, Discord. One person, I'm sorry, I scrawled this name, Lauren Edmonds, I think that is what I wrote. Are you out there, Lauren? Okay. Let's see here. If you are, please raise your hand. Lauren Edmonds. All right. Anyone else want to add?
She's
Oh, there you are,
there.
Lauren. Thank you.
She's there. Go forth, Lauren. Your mic is open.
Okay, I was just offering ideas on there. I don't know that I have more to say.
Oh, well, could you just explain to those of us who don't really know so much about Jackbox and Kahoot, just explain a little bit more about that and how that works and where you're from also, please.
Yeah, so I'm from Ohio, Pickerington Public Library. So Jackbox and Kahoot are both platforms you can use to play kind of trivia online. And you can either do it totally on your computer or on your computer and your phone. But if you're playing it virtually, you kind of need the ability to have two tabs open or two screens. Kahoot, you can either take a pre-made trivia game or make your own trivia questions, and users join the game on their phones and then compete to answer the questions, and you can get streaks for going faster and things like that. Jackbox Party has the trivia, and it also has other games as well. So someone mentioned Drawful. So it's got some drawing games, it's got some trivia games, it has some like Mad Lib style games, a lot of different things available.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, friends of mine had even tried playing board games using a camera that they had hooked up to the chandelier with the board under it. And eventually they just started being like the assigned dice roller because it just got too confusing otherwise. So I think some of these other platforms sound like great things for teens and probably adults to be using as well as we're trying to figure out how to entertain ourselves. All right. I had also wanted to hear from Sammy Neiman. Could you raise your hand? Sammy, are you out there? All right. Does anyone else have anything more to add about games or gaming that hasn't been discussed so far? I saw a number of people talking about D&D in our when you responded to to register for this. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to add about D&D? If so, raise your hand. Sarah?
Yeah, hi. I'm with Queens Public Library. We actually have a small gaming committee working on virtual gaming programs, and we actually decided against D&D because it requires a lot of like books that people may not have access to. There's a lot of rules. So in order to reach more kids, we've been going with indie role-playing games, indie RPGs. We only just got it started, but last week I ran Honey Heist, which is a game where kids play as a bear who is a criminal. And it is a very simple, straightforward game. They did a really good job working together. It was the first one, but they were a great group. And I can post a couple of links into the chat for people who are looking for one-page rules, very simple systems. If you can improvise and if you have six-sided dice, you can run them. And it's something different.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, Honey Heist, I agree, that sounds hilarious. How about Emily Appleton? Do you have something to add?
Hi, yeah, so at my library, I'm with North Hollywood Library, part of Los Angeles Public Library System. We are doing Dungeons and Dragons. So we did it when we were open. We had a really dedicated, fun group of teens who really enjoyed it. So we decided to try to do it via Zoom, and we've done it twice so far. It's been a learning experience. The first time was a little chaotic. There are very basic rules you can find online for free. You don't need to do anything super fancy. There's a lot of free campaigns you can also get access to online. So the employee who does the Dungeon Master stuff, he has that, and we share like character sheets via Google Docs. Some of our teens have their own dice, and at first we were like, no, don't have your own dice because maybe you'll cheat, but we kind of relaxed on that because it took too much time to, there's Wizards of the Coast has an online free dice roller randomizer you can just do, and that was taking a lot of time. So the teens who don't have it, they can do that. I also trust my teens because I've known them a long time to just be like, I rolled a 7, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's always a that's great. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, everybody's just laugh about it, not too serious.
Mm-hmm. And it's good that you can, if you can, this is a great example of building relationships with teens, you know, that you can trust them now in this kind of situation, that they'll play fair as much as possible, right? Katie Smith, you have your hand raised.
Yes,
Could you introduce yourself and where you're
Hi, I'm Katie Smith. I'm from Fond du Lac Library in East Peoria, Illinois, and I've been running the D&D games. So I moved to digital and I do it all on Roll20. One of the things I like about it is that it has rules already incorporated into the free version. So you can access all of that information there. And one of the other things I like is that in the chat, you can actually roll dice. So you have to use a little prompt like \R and put in the dice, but it's all self-contained. And there's also like the chat and video features are already integrated into the thing. So you can also tell people like, oh, if they don't want to use the video chat, they can turn that off and just stick to voice. And I saw that some people were asking about the classroom setups. What you can do is have everybody go on mute if that's an issue. So like a very large, energetic group. And whenever people want to talk, you can have them unmute. So it's very similar to like the normal classroom setups that teachers are using. And I guess one other feature I really like to use is the D&D pre-generated characters that they have on their website. So let me just find that link real quick.
That'd be great.
And I'll put that in the chat.
Terrific.
So if you want to go there, they have pre-generated character sheets for every level. So if you want to, you can just have them create like, I don't know, the Tiefling Warlock and just download those files and then find the level that you want to have them play. So it's all pretty easy to, I guess, have that resource for yourself so you can see what their character sheets are, and then also have them get those character sheets. So.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing all that information. I see one more hand raised about this. Lisa Bosarge, I'm sorry. Are you there?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we play D&D at my library, but we've actually, instead of running the D&D ourselves, we pulled some of our professional DMs that we were already working with. So some of them are using Roll20, and they're also combining that with D&D Beyond, which I saw mentioned in the chat, that let players create characters of different levels and different types set by the DM. So like if you have a specific campaign setting, they can put that all in D&D Beyond and you just click away. And it's free for the players, but it does cost for the DM, which is why we use the professional DMs to do it. Some of our DMs are using Discord, and they do use auto-generated rolling.
Oops, looks like Lisa has frozen. I see Danielle has also raised her hand. Danielle Goen, could you let us know where you're from and if you'd like to. Oh, Danielle, are you still there? Oh, Lisa, there you are.
Hey there.
Hi, you froze for a moment. Could you also let us know where you're from?
I'm from the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore City. So we're the city's library.
Yes.
We have a pretty big population.
Yes, and I'm from the Baltimore County Public Library. So I should know you.
Oh, a lot of overlap there, I'm sure. Yeah, but we are, a lot of our stuff was digital already with our D&D groups, and we just started sending people there rather than putting extra resources on something that already existed.
All right, great. All right, so when everyone sent in their registrations and talked about what they're currently doing, it seemed like games was one of the top categories, D&D, trivia, using things like Jackbox and Kahoot, and that sort of thing. The other kind of squishy category that we saw was how people are utilizing social media and apps to connect with teens and engage them in virtual programming. And one person who's doing that is Lisa Kroc in Ohio. Lisa, could you join us and introduce yourself and where you are?
Everyone, I'm Lisa Kroc, and I am the Adult and Teen Services Manager at Morley Library in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And since it is National Poetry Month, well, first to give you a little bit of background, I just wrote a book that includes poetry. It's this, Novels and Verse for Teens, and it's a book for teachers and librarians to teach you how to use novels and verse to reach marginalized teens and reluctant readers. Well, of course, this release came right as the pandemic was hitting. So I thought, okay, all of my events have been canceled. I have to get this information out to librarians and teachers so that they can use it and to share some of the poetry activities with teens. So what I decided to do was to make a couple of videos that I posted to our Twitter. The first one was just a simple one, like, hey, happy National Poetry Month. Did you know that you can make poetry with book spines? And I did some funny little, examples of different book spine poetry just based upon what I had in my own house. That was just to give them something easy to get started with. Then what I did was I posted a video saying, happy National Poetry Month. Each day in April, I will be tweeting a different novel and verse along with a corresponding poetry activity that you can try. Now, obviously, not everybody has everything they need at home, but it's something to think about for the future and for librarians to use moving forward. So I have it here on my iPad. I just wanted to show you an example. So what I did, I posted, whoops, moving. That's not it. Hold on a second. Okay, I posted a video introducing it all. And then each day of the month, I would post a picture of the book, a brief little ditty about it, and a corresponding poetry activity that goes with it. Sorry, it's hard to see on there. I just wanted you to be able to see an example. And we are doing a poetry contest that is posted both on our website and on our social media. And teens have through the end of the month, not just teens, it's for everybody, but there are different categories. So obviously I'm handling the teen part. teens have till the end of the month. They can submit their poetry entries. And I thought that this was kind of a fun way to teach them about different kinds of poetry. You know, there's a clear-hue, there's a haiku, there's ekphrastic poetry, there's tanka, cinquains, sonnets, you know, all kinds of different examples that they can learn about and give a try while they're at home writing. What was the other thing I did? And I also, as I posted them on Twitter each day, I tried to remember to tag the school's Twitter. I do this on Twitter, not on Facebook, because it's kind of like tweeting over from my own personal account to the library account. So it's on Twitter each day, this post. And I try and remember to tag the school so that they see it as well, so that their teachers and their teens both see it. And then I also, and the things that I'm putting up on Twitter are kind of abbreviated versions of what's in my book, because obviously Twitter is limited characters. So I kind of have to abbreviate it down to kind of a little sample of basically what's in there. But I also ran a series for Teen Librarian Toolbox this past month. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but every Monday I did a post on, you know, week 1 of National Poetry Month, week 2, and it's basically a longer version of the stuff that I put on Twitter, but it's all condensed in one spot. So each Monday during the month of April, that's posted on Teen Librarian Toolbox. And that's, you know, more of a resource for teen librarians to look at to find things that they can use with their teens. What else did I want to tell you? I've also posted some videos just to give more examples of authors reading their poetry, like Nikki Grimes had posted some things, Zetta Elliott, Jason Reynolds, lots of different videos like that, just to kind of engage them and get them interested.
Yeah, that's great, especially because so often, you know, poetry and people, you know, teens especially, their eyes glaze over, but to have the video content where, you know, people that they're really interested in hearing, that really brings it to life. Sounds like a lot of great ideas. And I really like the way that you are connecting to our partners, such as teachers, to get this going as well, because we know that you know, this is one of the most difficult things right now. We just don't have the connections with the physical libraries closed. So that's great.
So I'll put the links
related
to those.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I'll put the links to those Teen Librarian Toolbox posts in the chat. So Perfect. You can take a look if you like. That'll give you a better idea.
That sounds great. Sort of related to this, another poetry related person or program, I mean, Rachel McDonald out in Washington State. Rachel, would you like to raise your hand and talk a little bit about what you've been up to?
Absolutely, thanks, Todd. So I work for King County Library System. We're a 50-branch library system outside of Seattle, and I'm our teen services coordinator. So I support our librarians who are working with teenagers. And we were approached through social media by Youth Speaks, which is an organization that does poetry slams for ages 13 to 19. They've been around for a while. We had never partnered with them before, but I'm so glad that they reached out because they have these long-standing relationships with youth and with teaching artists. So through our new partnership with Youth Speaks, we were able to get Hollis Wong Ware, who is a slam poet, an alumna of Youth Speaks. And if you've seen the Macklemore video, White Walls, she's actually singing in that. So she's a singer-songwriter and an all-around pretty amazing person. So she did sort of an intimate performance through Zoom last week. And this coming Thursday, we'll be hosting a poetry salon where the youth will actually be reading the poems, perhaps the poems that they worked on during the workshop this past week. So we're hoping to continue that. It's just really nice. I'm going to encourage you all, I'm sure you all know this, but to work with your outside partners who have those really deep relationships. And then we're able to provide the infrastructure like oh, here's where you can sign up, and we have somebody who's going to be monitoring the chat in Zoom, so y'all don't have to worry about that. So we're really pleased to do that. I'll also post a link in the chat. We're doing an online poetry contest called Rhyme On. The poems don't have to rhyme, but sometimes they do. It used to be just for teenagers, and now we've expanded it to all ages. So it's really fun reading those as they come through. And there's no prizes associated with it. We decided it was just for the honor of having your poem shared on our website and social media.
Great, thanks so much, Rachel. That sounds like a terrific opportunity. And I think there are probably local arts organizations in most of our communities to partner with at this time. So this is that they're looking for things to do too, and looking for outlets to get their name out. I just read an article today, unfortunately, of how nonprofit organizations, I think 70% or so, are in very dire financial needs right now, because so many charitable donations have gone, understandably, to the COVID pandemic, but their fundraisers, their events, and that have all been canceled. So definitely partnering with local arts organizations, it's a win-win. Get both of your names out there. That's would be really useful. Okay, so changing gears or shifting gears a little bit, I heard from Robin Brenner, will you raise your hand, about some fun activities that you have been doing in Massachusetts? Robin? There you are.
Hi, sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand on my iPad, which is incredibly complicated. So I can give you a thumbs up. That's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Anyway, as long as you can hear me, that's fine. So we've been talking about, we're brainstorming recently about different programs that we could do. We have an idea space, which is what we call our maker space. And of course, we were supposed to have a launch party at the end of April, and that is not happening. So we've already been doing various programs that are like craft along. So we have a staff person who is showing people, for example, how to make masks, kind of a different range of crafts that we thought people would have the materials at home. But now we're starting to move towards some other ideas that hopefully will go into the summer. So the first idea that will be easier to do now, because while we're still closed, we're in Brookline, Massachusetts, and right now our library is still closed until June 29th. So we have a long stretch of time when we won't be in the building. So we were talking about hosting maybe some Q&A or bake-along things with local businesses. So inviting a baker from one of our local bakeries or a chef from one of our local restaurants, and either to do something like have them talk through common questions and do like a Q&A section for all the people that have, started a million sourdough starters. We could help them figure out how to do it and get advice from an expert. And then we were talking about also doing it where maybe in a very kind of reality show style thing where the librarian tries to cook what the chef is telling them to do, and we see how that goes. And then later on in the summer, hopefully, what I'm thinking of doing, and both my tween librarian who serves grades 5 to 7, and I serve grades 8 to 12. We're hoping to do some cooking demos where we can distribute kits to all the kids that they would just take home and never return. So they'd get to keep whatever we put in there, and give them either the ingredients plus maybe some of the tools. So like maybe some cup measures and whisks and things like that, so that they could then, later on that week, you sign up to do that, you take home that kit, and then you get to make chocolate chip cookies with everybody. Or you could have everyone talk about their favorite additions to recipes. And like, if we're all making chocolate chip cookies, how do you make it in your house? That kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're only just started figuring that out, partly because like many of us, we have to spend all our money before the end of the fiscal year. So we're trying to figure out ways to get supplies that we can use later in the summer to help distribute some sort of craft supplies and cooking supplies and whatever else we can come up with that's kind of themed on the makerspace. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes.
Thanks, Robin. That sounds like fun, and it's also a very good point that you bring up that many of our fiscal years end June 30th, and we certainly don't want to leave any money on the table, so to speak. So, in terms of if it's programming supplies, materials, electronic or physical, you know, those are things that we're going to need to work with our supervisors or within our communities and our libraries to make sure that we spend that money for a good cause, right? For our teens. So I saw in chat a couple people talking about scavenger hunts, and I'm curious to hear more about that. If maybe they'd like to share with the full group. I saw Anthony Pepper, and I also saw Tracy Vittorio. Anthony, if you'd like to start.
Hi, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have had a lot of success with, I call them Google Earth scavenger.
Anthony, I'm sorry,
Sure.
It's very hard to hear. Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Hear me better?
And where are you from also, please?
Sure, I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah, I've had success with Google Earth scavenger hunts. Basically, if you've ever messed around with Google Earth, you know, there's a lot of just interesting things that you can find. There's websites that compile all these cool images. There's certain HD ones of like of wildebeests charging in Africa and things like that. And basically, you just go around the globe and you can, you know, yourself, or you find these websites that compile these images, and you can input coordinates in there and say, hey, go to these coordinates, and they learn about longitude and latitude, and then they say, what do you see? And then they can see the wildebeests. You can do things like I did one of the local to St. Petersburg locations, or you could do it for your local area. And so it's a good way to do local history. You can do all kinds of cool stuff like that. It's really the sky's the limit. You're just using Google Earth as a platform, and the entire globe, you know, the hunt takes place there. So those can be a lot of fun.
Great. That does sound like something that so many of us have access to, obviously, Google Earth. So yeah, starting from that platform, terrific idea. There's a Kathleen H. in Austin who has her hand raised.
Hi all. So I shared the idea of doing sort of impromptu scavenger hunts with your teen councils or any groups that you're meeting with. They're really hilarious just to watch them all scamper around their room and their house. It's funny if you make them bring if you tell them bring a relative, because sometimes they'll bring like their baby sister or something by the camera. And then it's also sort of a team building, restorative healing type thing, because they all get to connect with each other. We also did room tours, like like show us around your room. So each person each week gets to give us a tour of their room. And so some of that is helping build community among our teens in a way that they really seem to be missing right now.
Great. Tracy, I see you're there now. Tracy, would you like to join us? I see you're unmuted, but I don't hear you. All right. Well, how about Kristen Doyle? You have your hand raised as well.
Yeah, hi. I'm in Basalt, Colorado, and we've been doing, or we're about to start a scavenger hunt where it's a partnership with a local environmental nonprofit, where instead of it being looking for a specific item or place, it's more of like, go look at, like, go see how many different types of birds you can find. Trying to get some activities and programming where kids actually get to go outside and get a little bit of break from screen time. And so we're asking, you know, if you go do this scavenger hunt, either tell us how it went, and you can get like a summer reading prize for participating, kind of similar level of prizes. And then also, sorry, space cadeting here. We're gonna do a really cool program where we are we have like a water quality sampling kit that includes some like cool little toys where you could go look at bugs and stuff. And so we're going to work together with this nonprofit to do a quick little video of how to use that kit. And then we're partnering with a local food bank so that when people are coming to pick up their food bank items, we have weeded books that can be picked up for free. And then we have like a limited number of these kits that we're less worried about being quote unquote contaminated versus like paper products like books that they can check out right there. And so while I'm definitely going to do some cool virtual programming, I also want to make sure that we give some kids some opportunity to get away from their screens, considering they're doing that so much at school right now.
Terrific. That sounds great, and another great partnership opportunity there. Because unfortunately, we've seen the food bank lines locally and you know, on the news that are happening all around the country. There was a question in chat about digital inequity, and I think that is a really important subject. One question that we did want to ask, it's sort of a survey, and just raise your hand if you would like. Would you like us to do more of these in the coming weeks? Tammy is going to see if there's a lot of hands raised on that. So, okay, I'm seeing chat going crazy with yes. So okay, that sounds like yes is the answer. We're definitely going to need to cover that and any ideas that people have about reaching people teens that we don't see, that we haven't seen, haven't been able to connect to. Here in Maryland, we were even talking about how there are kids and teens that used to be able to come to the physical location, and just due to their inability to have high-speed internet in their location, even who we would call privileged teens, they're just not that line just doesn't go to where they live. So there's actually more people who we may not be seeing than in the past, which is really unfortunate. I also wanted to talk just a little bit about resources, YALSA resources, because I understand that many of you are really busy doing online programming, teaching your classes, and generally doing the work that you always have been doing, just in this different format. I'm also really hopeful that this crisis provides all of us with some kind of quiet opportunities to sit and really think strategically about your teen services going forward. If that is, you know, in your school, in your public library, really think about what it is that we do, and kind of almost have an opportunity where we're not constantly putting fires out in our physical location, to sort of think about some of our strategies. I also want to remind people that YALSA is a member-driven organization, and members are the ones that put together all of these resources. You know, they're member authored. Members like you have put these resources together. Sometimes I'll overhear somebody say something like, well, YALSA did this, or I'll read a tweet that says YALSA recommends, or I can't believe what YALSA, you know, and I often really want to remind that speaker or writer that YALSA isn't some kind of amorphous, mindless being, but really it's most likely a group of your own colleagues working together from libraries all over the country to put together these sorts of resources. One of which I want to always mention is the teen service competencies for library staff. These are 10 competencies that really form the bedrock of what we do. And these were updated at the end of 2017, but they are really basic, appropriate, providing beneficial and appropriate service to teenagers. Each competency has 3 categories: developing for the practitioner who's new to the field, practicing a middle level of considerations, and then transforming, which provide clear best practices. Given the financial situations that many municipalities and states are currently facing, I think it's understandable if your teen services in your location look more like developing at this point, but that's okay. I think there will be better days ahead, and free webinars that touch on each one of those 10 competencies are available, and they're still available on the YALSA site. Another critical document I think that we really should be aware of that I know I forget about sometimes myself is the Teen Literacies Toolkit. As media literacy becomes ever more important for teens, this product outlines the ways that school and public libraries can help teens navigate the disinformation, misinformation, and as Stephen Colbert coined the term truthiness, that permeate both traditional and social media. Because of our fractured political system, more than ever, there's a need to discern facts from fallacies. Teaching teens in an engaging way to turn to trusted sources provides them with tools for their futures. And YALSA, along with AASL, the School Librarians Division, we're in early stage discussions to partner with the National Alliance for Media Literacy Education to create some media literacy standards for children and teens. So we're really excited about that opportunity. I think another thing that we absolutely need to keep in mind is our EDI plan and EDI statement. We talked a little bit about digital inequity, and this really, these are super important to keep in mind whenever we're doing anything, any decisions that the board makes, staff, committees, any publications that we do, programming, that they're infused with understanding of EDI elements. So I think this is particularly important at this time. Unfortunately, we've become aware that underprivileged residents of communities across the country are falling victim to COVID-19 at rates far above the average. So always keep that in mind. And then I certainly couldn't go through these resources without mentioning our YALSA Programming HQ. This is a perfect place to share your virtual programming ideas and get ideas from others. hq.yalsa.net. It's easy to remember. And I really hope that you use that resource as much as possible. I think we're hearing from a lot of places around the country. I know that you share locally a lot, but I think this is an opportunity to get ideas that you might not have thought of from librarians throughout the country. Okay, the last thing I'm going to mention is I want to draw your attention to a few upcoming free YALSA member perk collection-oriented webinars that we have coming up. We've assembled experts on teen nonfiction, adult books for teens, and audiobooks for teens for a 3-part collection development series. The first one on teen nonfiction brings together 3 stellar members of the 2020 Excellence in Nonfiction for Young Adults Award Committee. They're going to discuss the best and most appealing nonfiction for you to consider for your teen collections. And this webinar takes place Thursday, May 14th, so just 2 weeks from Thursday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and it's part of our second Thursday's webinar series. The registration for that is currently open, and you can check the latest e-news for the link, or you can go to YALSA's webinar page. The webinars on adult books for teens and audiobooks will follow in June and July, respectively. Thank you all very much for attending today, and please stay safe and healthy. Thanks very much.